right. So good afternoon. Welcome to the NEBOSH General Certificate, our November batch. I think this particular class, NEBOSH has been looking at this class because we put it on YouTube, right? And so that's one of the reasons I've been kind of following this class closely anyway, right? So anyway, we have done the project NG2. We have covered hazards. We have covered that last week. I believe all the videos are on YouTube. If I'm wrong, well, there are many other videos we have of part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4 on the YouTube channel anyway. I know we did not do a Google Classroom for you all. From the YouTube channel, you know, we will get it back straight to your WhatsApp group. But if you have subscribed, which many of you all have, once we post a video, you all will be able to see it, right? I was saying there, off the record, that seeing that you all are on the downhill now, you know, you could check in your mind like what else you want to do if you have, you know, stay in the career of health and safety. At the same time, we do have some set courses coming up. We have the NEBOSH process safety starting on the 13th of April. That's on a Sunday. I think the rest of the course is on a Sunday. We have NEBOSH incident investigation. That's actually, I think, on a Sunday evening or a Thursday evening. And then we have the NEBOSH diploma, but you all might not be ready for that. You may, if anybody looking at the diploma, you may have to catch it a bit lower down in the year, maybe October. You may be able to catch it there anyway, right? So like I said, by the time I normally come to you all, I am normally a bit tired in terms of the voice now, right? I just have to kind of remember you all were supposed to have another lecturer, but it is what it is, and it's just to kind of pull myself together, and then I would finish off this class, right? So today we are on safe systems of work. You know, no, what I wanted to tell you all is that you should try. You want to take this down, right? You should try to hand up your project by the 26th of March. That gives you a long time. You'll have been doing the project more than you've been doing NG2 then for what, the last 3 to 4 weeks, right? I mean, they've been doing NG2, we did part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, right? Maybe 3 weeks anyway, right? So you should try to submit your project NG2 risk assessment coming out of that. You should try to submit that. I'm trying to look at the date. I see good from fast. It's the 26th, right? It's close
It's
up.
a
It's
Wednesday.
yeah, it's the 26th, right? Now, this would be nice. Now, you could do it before. That's what I'm trying to tell you all, right? You could do it before so that would give me a chance to do a draft marking then, right? Just have a review of your stuff, right? The 26th of March would be a nice day for your final, 2025, right? And once you are finished, you can send it. Remember, you don't have to really wait for this date. Some classes listen, some classes don't listen. However, I say had, you know, because they wrote the exam on Wednesday. Like you all were November 2024, you all started, I had a September class, and everybody submitted the project, right? I myself downloaded them, I myself put them in folders and uploaded it to the NEBOSH site, right? So that was good for them because that, I mean, that's more than a month you have with it, and they were able to sort of have a sort of draft look at it and we're able to submit on time, right? So kind of keep that in mind. The project is normally due the Wednesday before your exam. So if you do it April exam, it's March. But even if you're not doing the April and you're going to May, I think that's still enough time. That project is not that hard, especially when you have a sample and you have all the videos and you have all the notes you made, right? I was saying some places don't teach NG2. They don't teach the project. They don't teach it as a subject. We teach it as a subject, right? So, you know, I think you have had many other benefits at other places in Trinidad or even Guyana don't have. I know of another school, they're out of business now. No fault of them. I think I told this story already. So you'll stop me if you heard this one as the same. But because of the pandemic now, you know, the lady passed away, the tutor passed away, the owner passed away. Everybody have to go, I guess, someday. Someday will be my day, I guess my turn. Everybody have to, like nobody could stay forever then, right? You know? But that particular school then, NSAFE, for those who know it, NSAFE, they never used to teach the project. They never did. How I know that is that students would come here and then the students would say the teachers just give them it. And that's okay. NIBOSH actually allow that. You're not really supposed to teach it, as I'm telling you all, right? The project is actually meant as an exam, but we spoon feed you all now, right? We go through part one, we go, and I'm not too sure. I don't think it's against the rules to go through it because I mean I have the videos on YouTube for more than 5 years now. Nibosh have never said never teach it, but I know the effort then to teach it, and then the effort that the other places are not making. The other places just give you the project, give you the sample, and tell you go and do a good one. And it was interesting. You know what's amazing with that? Some people actually pass. Yeah, remember we offered a diploma, so some people come here, had come here, should I say, from, and if it's no longer around in terms of NIBOSH now, right? And they will come with the NIBOSH certificate, and these are people who just look at the sample, you look at the guidance, and you do it and you pass. So the level of spoon feeding then that you all get is not really typical. And that's what I'm saying that with that level of, and look at what you have, videos to go back and pause and press play and pause. And how could you all mess it up, right? How could you all mess it up? You shouldn't, because the September class didn't and the January, well, the August class didn't, right? They used all the resources they had and they were able to submit on time and everything on time, right? So you all could do the same. It's the same kind of passing criteria. You have to do the same. But what is wrong is if you leave it for after the 26th, because after the 26th, like the school and the institute here, we have some things to do with that project to format it for NIBOSH. And after that, then it's like we wouldn't be looking at drafts anymore. We wouldn't be giving you the feedback because we have to do our administrative stuff with it. And I say our, right now it's just me at the office, right? I have right now it's just one person full-time then, right? The rest of persons are all part-time. Coordinators are all part-time lecturers. For the other courses we do, we have Firewatch and first aid and stuff. All of those are part-time. So right now it's just me. So when I say it's I who have to take it and do the admin stuff with it, but you know, the time will come when NIBOSH will want it, and then when they want it, I have to submit it. So if you did yours and you didn't get a draft mark, or you didn't get a draft feedback, or you did it late or whatever, that's on you. Because you know how long NIBOSH say to do that project? You know how long you're supposed to take to do it? You all ever read the guidance? Anybody read the guidance? Let me see if anybody read that guidance. They want the forklift. You know how long they say you're supposed to take to do that project? So none of you all read it. Right? I had a girl in the September class who read it, the wrote exam, and she told the class, go and read it and you'll see how long they take it to do that, how long it should take it to do that project. Right? And let me just say it like this. 6 weeks is too much. Right? 6 weeks is too much. Anyway, I'll leave that to you all. You all know what you want in life. I just always say that, right? If you all know me, when I make up my mind to do something, I drive. I drive hard. Not on the road I'm talking about, right? But I drive now. I drive for that. That's my driving force, right? Came from a poor family, purpose to build my own house. I built my own house from scratch, right? So you ought to know what you want. If you want this, you will do whatever it takes to get it, and you will not wait for the 26th of March to be submitting any draft because you should know what you want. And if you know what you want, nothing would stop you. If you don't know what you want, everything else would stop you, right? All right, let's take a go at today's work is in chapter 3. If you want to, no, you all don't have too much of this class. No, you all have books, right? And you all have books. So chapter 3, you all have books, man. I think you all have. You probably have cobwebs in it, but remember the last 3 weeks you're doing project anyway. We're doing NG2 for the last 3 to 4 weeks, right? So this you'll find it. If you don't have a book in front of you, you can just take the page of this is page 54 of chapter 3. 54 of chapter 3 will follow here anyway, because remember, I can't look here and look here and look here and look back here. It's going to be confusing, right? So we just sort of focus on one thing to sort of look at as is a presentation. But if you have a book, definitely chapter chapter 3, page 54, you'll see the same heading there, Safe Systems of Work, right? So what I'll do today, I want to do a bit of explanation. So, remember the reading doesn't help anybody because they're not asking you to remember all of this, right? I'll read, explain, and we'll see how fast we can finish it. So what is a safe system of work? They say, with the definition by the HSE, is the integration of personnel, articles, and substances in a laid out and considered method of working, which takes into account the risk to employees as well as non-employees to ensure all the steps necessary for safe working have been anticipated and implemented. In short, as you like reading will actually put it to sleep, right? But in short, right, a safe system of work is a way of doing work safely. And you have two main examples of it. You have in this course, we have what is called a JSA, a job safety analysis, and the other one is called a permit to work, right? So I just talking to you. So for a JSA, what they will do, you'll see it here. You would look at this slide, I'll just talk to you, right? They will take a task, they will break it down into some steps. With every step, right, they will consider what is the hazard. They don't normally do a risk assessment for a JSA, but some companies will want it. And then with every risk then or every hazard, they will consider the controls, right? The people who are doing a JSA should be competent, supervisor, HSE manager, engineer, etc., right? Those persons are there to make the process go along nicely, share all the information that they have. You can read this up for yourself. There's no such question on, what's the role of a competent person anyway, right? But they include managers, supervisors, designers, anybody then who could be seen as competent in your company or an expert in their job could be a part of a JSA, right? So typically, as I said, a JSA have controls in it. Some of those controls could be engineering controls, things to control people behavior, or documents to control people behavior, like disciplinary records and discipline. So what is involved in a JSA? You take a task, as I was saying. Like I have one here, changing a spare tire on a busy highway. Let's look at them back to back. By the way, this is in a book too. If I can show you this in a book. This is on page 56. Same thing, same thing. Select the task. If you're on 56, you'll see the same thing. You can say just make up your mind to watch one place at a time, right? Select the task, then break that task down into a sequence of steps. So that's what you're seeing here. I took the task of changing a spare tire. I'll break it down into some steps, loosen the nuts. With every step, we consider the hazard, what it's here, identify the hazard, and with every hazard, we consider the control, right? So with every hazard, I put risk here because I know some companies want the risk in it, but in its purest form, a JSA does not have a risk assessment. But then companies can decide whatever they want to do, right? So most companies put risk in it. So I put risk in it too, right? So that's a JSA. You take a task, break it down to some steps. With every step, you consider the hazard. With every hazard, you consider the risk. With every risk, you consider the control. To the end of the day, this thing must be signed and dated. And, once you come up with a JSA, like once you develop it, of how to do the work safely, you have to train the employees to follow it. So it's a legal responsibility to inform the employees of the hazards that you found and to train them, right? And to train them. And that's it, instruction and training. Details of any permit to work, right? If any control had required PPE, any emergency action, the workers have to be trained in following the JSA. Then you monitor the system, you monitor the document to make sure that it didn't leave out anything. Maybe monitor it to make sure workers are following and understanding it, and they can take any action if there was a gap in any place in it anyway. And that is a JSA. What I would like you to do though, just for participation sake, is give me another step. Let's just get another step for participation sake, right? For class participation. So if God forbid, I haven't, no, I mean, I'll take that back. But for years, I haven't had a flat tire. For years, right? And it used to be because I told her where I came from. One of my first cars was a March, a Nissan March, if you all even know what that is, right? And like that car, I had paid $15,000 for it. So it wasn't a new brand March, it was $15,000, right? And every month, like back then, this is when I was, I told you like my background, I was going to classes with that car. I was going to Costa in the night, but I was living far, I was living past Lucero. So every month I had to change tires in that car. I actually didn't buy new tires either. I buy kind of foreign used tires, whatever, right? And I had a pride, like when I say pride, I mean pride. Like if a tire was flat, I would change that in 3 minutes time, right? I would change that. Like if a tire got flat, that was like my thing now. I was like 3 minutes time I change in that tire, right? But now I don't even know if I could do that anymore, to be honest with you, right? Like to give you a true story, for All Year's Day, I was at the office here doing some work and went in the car that I have and driving, I fell into like this huge pothole in the center of the road, right? And the tire went down. And I didn't even stop. I just went straight to the closest tire shop, something I would not have done. I drove kind of with it flat. I would not have done that, right? I would not have done that years ago, but now I guess people change anyway. I don't even know if I have that. I guess I could do it still, but I haven't changed a tire probably in the last 10 to 15 years, to be honest with you, right? So anyway, for those of us who have changed a spare tire, I will take it from here. Let's say we have packed up the vehicle already. I have loosened the nuts. I think I remember that part of it. So you loosen the nuts. So what's the next thing to do, right? What's the next thing we do after we loosen the nuts? And we have here the hazard of that, impact injuries. I did a risk assessment 3x4 is 12. What are the controls? Wear hand glove, operate the spanner, I guess that's what they call it, using a consistent force, take care. So what do you think is the next step in changing a spare tire or
Just
changing a defective tire? Okay,
taking
good.
out
So
the
we want to
tire.
jack up the vehicle, yeah?
Raising the vehicle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. So
that.
you want to, I was call it jacking up or elevating the vehicle, right? Jack up or elevate the vehicle. So what are the hazards of that? What are the hazards of doing that activity? Just give me about two. Like, what's the hazard of jacking up the vehicle or elevating the vehicle?
Could fall down too.
Okay, so you could have crushing injuries. We call it a crush, right? You could have crushing injuries. Anybody else?
Jacking up
I
and
guess.
do chuck the wheel like a roll.
Okay, good. You could have a rule, and I guess you could have the vehicle being damaged. I said crush there. That's hoping if not hoping, but given the fact that somebody was on there, but it could have a role and the vehicle could actually fall for itself, right? We could do a risk assessment for that. That's probably not too likely. So we'll go with a 3. But if it does happen, it's going to be bad because a crush is never good. So we're going to have to go to about 15. 3x5 will give us about 15. And then what do you think would be the controls? What would be some of the controls to prevent somebody getting crushed or the vehicle rolling? If you want, I can give you one to start. So we probably would have chucked the wheels on them. We'd have chucked the wheels, as they say, right? Chuck the wheels with a stone, or if you have, I don't even have those things anymore. I used to have all of those things in my, I don't even have those things. I don't even know where the jack in my car is right now, to be honest with you all. That's shameful, eh? What again? So we chuck the wheels. How do we prevent the crush?
Ensure you're jacking on the jack point on the car.
Okay, so a stable
On a
point
flat.
on the car. Yeah, okay. So a stable point on the car. So you understand, folks? A JSA is not hard. The point of doing this is a JSA is not hard, right? A JSA is easy. You take a task, whatever is your task, painting, fabricating, making a cake, whatever you would have been doing. Yes, chef and whatever, right? Cooking, whatever. You just take your task. The steps in the JSA is always the same. You take your task. If you have the book, you can watch back at it. You break it down into some steps. At every step, you consider the hazard. At every hazard, you consider the risk. With every risk, you consider the controls. And that's a JSA. Not very difficult, right? So that's it. JSA is finished. I'm just thinking now for exam. Um, Not too common. Not a common question, but it does come, right? Not a guaranteed question, definitely not a guaranteed question, but it has come. Um, when it come to, remember, for you all, it has come common sense. Like, to me, the last time I remember one could have been somewhere in the second part of last year, right? But it wasn't as what you think now. It isn't the steps in a JSA. They asked you to comment on how the company was using a JSA, right? Like comment on the safe system of work, which, all the answers could be in the passage, right? So it's not even this refined, it's not even this academic then. It's more like how you see them using the JSA in the case study, right? So I don't want to overstretch my thinking here because I know December didn't have a question. I know November did not have a JSA question. I know January did not have a JSA question. I know February did not have a JSA question. I know March did not have a JSA question. So let's move on to something else. Let's move on to something that could be a little bit more popular, right? Try to follow with your book too. If you finish off, when we finish off JSAs there, I'm gonna clean the screen a bit, right? Well, when we started talking about safe systems of work, right? It was said under the context of if you watch here a bit, you'll see there were two examples there. There was a JSA and there was a permit. So permit questions are more popular, right? Permit questions are more popular. So let's go to permit a bit. I will just pause to find the page right in the textbook and we will take it off from there, right? I don't think the last three sittings had a permit question either. Permit to work, page 60 of your textbook if you want to follow through. Permit to work. I just watching, we could finish. I think I sent you all, I could finish chapter 3, It's only half past, so it's only half past 3. It's just my voice. I try to kind of gather my voice now, right? So need that. Yeah, I sent you all the PowerPoints on Wednesday, Ash Wednesday. The next PowerPoint to finish chapter 3, not hard, you see. We just on it now. Permit to work isn't that long either. Permit to work will finish in a bit. All right, let's take it from the slide a bit. If you have the book, page 60. So a specialized type of safe system of work used where the potential risks are high and careful coordination of activities and precautions is essential for safe working. I'll come back to that just now, right? Permit to work systems, I just try to I don't only read it one time. Overall responsibility should be with one person who signs for authorization and closes off the permit. A permit is formal, it's systematic process of controlling risk in a predetermined order. The permit will normally have a bunch of signed confirmations of the person on completion of the work before the next part of the work can continue and so on. Permits exist to control high risk tasks. Permits have a limited time period. Should be displayed during the time the permit is in effect. They call it the lifetime of the permit. The lifetime of the permit doesn't have to be long. It could be 50 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, right? The permit will cease to operate when the tasks have been completed. Permit to work system, they give you details about isolation of plants, machine and equipment area. You can have details about shorting of water, raw materials, gas. The permit would have a section on providing PPE or RPE and how to do the job safely. There's a part of the permit to put in signatures of all managers. There's a part of the permit to put in the signatures of all other persons, signature of the person inspecting the job after the job is completed. And there is a part of the permit also to put in, like the senior authorization signature of the plant manager to authorize plant startup or shutdown. there are different types of permits out there. Page 60, you have loan work permit, electrical permit to work, hot work permit, entry into confined space permit, permit to work on pressurized vessels, permit to excavate, right? And then I have an example here of one such area, which is a confined space that requires a permit. They would have said what a confined space is, a space that is substantially closed off, could give rise of all of these things here: injury, fire, unconsciousness, drowning. The risk assessment for those things must be done by a formal team, and you consider all the other things you normally consider in a risk assessment: the hazard, the previous content of the space, risk contamination, what are the hazards, below ground level, what is the oxygen level, what's the emergency procedures, etc. And you must have suitable rescue if you're thinking about working in a high-risk area, right? So must be implemented as soon as practicable when needed. Rescue arrangements include reducing risk during rescue to the lowest reasonably practicable level, provision of resuscitation equipment when conditions require it. Anybody that's trained to go into a high-risk area, that not just confined space, right? They must have all of these: rehearsal, training, drills, proper communication techniques, what could cause an emergency. Are they capable of using equipment they have, right? What's the method of planned shutdown? What's the firefighting equipment, procedures and stuff, right? So I wanted to read out all to tell you that, as I was telling you, we could have finished chapter 3. But we have to go back now and kind of get the main points, right? So let's do that now. So the first thing to know is that a permit is a safe system of work, right? Remember we said that before. There were two types of safe systems of work, right? You have it have more than two kinds, but it have two kinds on this syllabus, right? So we have the JSA kind. A JSA is a safe system of work, right? W is missing from here, right? And then we have the permit to work is also a safe system of work, right? So the thing is, what's the difference? So the difference is here, right? If you read it carefully, they say a permit is a special right? A special type of safe system of work used where the potential risks are high. So if the risk is high, the document you want to use is a PTW, right? High risk, and not a JSA. In other words, then a JSA could be used for everyday activities like housekeeping, right? Like housekeeping. But the GSA, right, is used for everyday activity, but the permit is used when the risk level is seen to be high. What did I write? I write right. My mistake, right? Well, I think I said it, look at here, right? So the risk levels are high. So when the risk is high, right, then you use a permit to work. So you have to bear in mind though, sorry, that's a human brain, right? Risk is high. So when the risk is high, you use a permit to work, right? But how does a piece of paper then, because both of these are sheets of paper, how does a sheet of paper make you safe? And the answer was what you find inside of here, right? The answer was that there's a bunch of people checking it then. There's a bunch of people, signatures and managers and stuff. There's a bunch of people checking it. And then the permit requires some things to be done that would make the job safe. So can you all write down some for me? I'm gonna shout them out for you. I'll try to give you about 10, if I could. Right? So you write it down like the contents of a permit. It's not on your syllabus, but I'll tell you why it's important. I mean, not everything is, the book then, right? Not everything is the core syllabus, right? Like the contents of a permit is not on your syllabus, but here the thing. The permit questions that we have seen that they will ask a comment on if the permit was used effectively. But how could you comment on if it used effectively if you don't know the contents of it, right? So some of them right here. So one of the contents of a permit, very important, is the word isolation. if you're not understanding this, what I'm trying to tell you is that if you were to get a permit in your hand, one of the first headings you'll see on the permit is the word isolation, right? And what isolation means, it means turning off and preventing from being turned back on. Turning off and prevent from being turned back on any energy supply, water, oil, gas, grain, anything that could have flooded a vessel, including grain, rice, sugar, salt, right? Flour, cereal. If somebody was going into a vessel then, and what they say is that the first thing the permit requires is that that space must be isolated. And isolated, anyone knows how they isolate? There's something here in the companies that people use. Anybody know what I'm talking about? For isolation, what do they do for isolation? There's actually something that they do. Isolation is done via a particular common slang. Yeah, lockout and tag out. That's what I'm trying to get at, right? So isolation mean like they would have locked off this valve from here and they put a tag on it. It's sometimes called lotto. Lockout and tag out. Right? Today is Saturday, of course. Doesn't prevent you from picking up a ticket. I've had bad luck though. I've had bad luck with lotto tickets. I actually got, I got a time, I got three numbers and I thought, geez, I got three numbers on the Powerball. I said, geez, you know. I was interviewing a student after the exam. We have an interview to do with you. I was interviewing a student recently, sometime last year. And, we have to put the camera on to show where you're doing the interview now. Like you have to show your desk and stuff, right? And on his desk, he had a Bible. And inside the Bible had a whole set of lotto tickets. I said, hey, what? I have to try that one because I didn't try that one as yet. Right? I don't know if he ever win anything, right? The guy name was Nickel. I said, Nickel, I have to try that, I have to try that. Anyway, back to lotto, right? So yeah, I mean, it's not the same kind of lotto. I'm just telling you, right? Just a funny story there. That in the companies they have actually like a lock. It's a clamp they can put on top of the valve head and they clamp it, and it's like a tag, right? So I wonder if you understand what I'm trying to get at. This piece of paper is powerful. This piece of paper is powerful because if you just follow one thing, you could actually save the workers inside it. Let's say a welder was going inside it or a contractor was getting in here. You have a tank door there. People could actually fit in that, and that's where they go to clean the tanks, right? Normally to the base of the tank. If it's oil, Trinidad is highly, oil. If it's green, it may be the same thing, but you normally have residue there. In the oil industry, they call it BS or sludge. But the common word is BS, right? Which you know what that stands for, right? But it's really sludge, right? And then contractors go to clean that. But what I'm saying, by following one thing on the permit, then if this line was really isolated, then no oil could flow into this tank. Next word, right? One of the next things on a permit is there a risk assessment attached? Did they do a risk assessment for the activity, cleaning, painting, whatever it was in the tank, right? Fabricating, did they do a risk assessment and is it attached, right? Now you might wonder, well, why is that important? Remember, risk assessment have controls in it. Remember your project? What's the third and fourth column of your project? That's an easy question. What's the third and fourth column of your project? The third column is what? What is the fourth column? What's the third and fourth column of your project, people? Are they going to make Nibosh
What
laugh or something?
controls are in order already and what controls need to be done?
Yeah, control. So the asking you is a risk assessment. Very good. Thanks for the answer. Thanks for taking part, right? So the asking you, like if a risk assessment is attached, they would have had the controls. And the controls for a tank like this would have been more, not just isolation. Folks, the controls here would have been ventilation, the controls would have been gas testing, the controls here would have been I don't know if you what I mean by ventilation. They have something called forced ventilation, where they pump air into the tank, right? It would have been gas testing before the contractor go inside there, before the welder go inside there. It have lots of other controls, right? But the point is the risk assessment attached. So if you follow the permit, that's what they say, it's permit to work. And if you follow the permit, you would have been safe or saved. As we all know, those of us in Trinidad, what happened at Paria, they did not follow the permit to work. I've spoken about this too many times, right? They did not. The culture in Paria was do the work. Now, some companies have that, do the work. And when you come out of the dive, let's say 3:30. It wasn't really 3:30, right? But let's say it was like a typical work day now. When you come out of the dive 3:30, then they will follow the permit. That's the wrong way to do it. The permit was meant if they had only isolated the lines, done the RA. Let's see some of the other things. One of the other things is emergency rescue. Emergency rescue is something that you must take off on a permit. And when you read, if you read this slide, right? If you read this slide that's on here, the operator, the welder, the supervisor, they were not supposed to sign anything if those things were not in place. The minute you sign that permit as the diver, or you sign that permit as the contractor, or you sign that permit, the man that's going to clean that tank, the welder that's going to weld that tank, right, have to sign the permit too. And that last person on the job should not have signed anything. I have seen companies, remember I work in other companies, right? I've seen companies where they didn't sign it and they hold up the work. And that's okay. Who vex? Yeah. I remember one in Tucker. I used to work for one of their sub companies. The company no longer in Trinidad, it's in Guyana now, called IAL. I was telling another class about them today. IAL. Anybody know where that company was in Trinidad? They used to be on the cross, you know, where you go to buy your burgers and stuff. Today is Saturday. I should probably make a pass. I'm going in a long time, to be honest. But then I live in Palmy, so like Palmy's have a kind of everything too. So, but you know the what's the name of the chicken? They say that tastes real good there. I forget the chicken. I guess you all haven't been on the cross. You all do come on the cross on a Saturday night. The cabin chicken.
Yeah,
Have you
the
ever
cabin.
tried that? The cabin chicken. Yeah. I don't find it taste all of that, to be honest with you. All of this big hype on it. I mean, no offense if anybody find it taste good. I don't find it taste all of that. I prefer my original KFC anytime, right? But anyway, I was saying that to tell you, IEL, but I saying this story to wake you up to, right? But IEL was right across from them. IEL was, oh look, Oronko calling me right now. And I imagine that I'm missing that call for earlier. I'll call him back afterwards, right? I didn't know if you could see it. I'll call him back afterwards, right? Yeah. Yeah, what I was saying, yeah. So I remember in IEL, we hold up a job. Boss vex, the man angry, clients waiting. We hold it up, right? Because somebody didn't sign the permit, and that's what you have to do. Who vex lost, that is them, right? I did that same thing for Massey at time, and at time my Massey director called me to tell me I did something wrong. I didn't do nothing wrong. He who do something wrong, and I show him what he do wrong in front of everybody. He was like the regional manager. His name is, he still is alive. I haven't seen him around for a long time though. Ben De La Rosa. Ben used to be on anytime you have local shows. But he did something wrong. And I told him about it. I hold up the work, right? And then but Massey policy was that they don't like, thing to reach publicity and stuff like that, right? But anyway, what I'm trying to say here, right, is that folks, if one person in Paria, if one safety in Paria had just hold up the job, those divers would have been alive today. That's what I'm trying to show you. You don't want to be everybody's friend now. right? If one of them, right? Did I ever tell you that they all from this school? Did I remember this is the main NEBOSH center in Trinidad. So anybody who do NEBOSH kind of did it from here, right? But I know them. I know them. I know all their names. I was shameful that I could say my students, after hearing what I do, my students couldn't just do the right thing. Not one of them could have said no, like we had to wait on emergency rescue. Not one of them could have said no, we have to share the permit with the adjacent contractor and isolate. Not one of them did it. I know that. And maybe everybody values are different. Maybe everybody values are different. I know one of them have kids, and he now is responsible for the death of somebody who actually have a child, right? So maybe the moral value for everybody is different. You see, Trinidad, and we kind of get more numb to it then. I ain't it long and I ain't numb to nothing, right? I have lost somebody a time, and I mean lost, the person passed away in my hands twice. Twice that happened to me, but you know what I did? I did my best. I did my best. The one who passed away, I know when she died, right? There's no, if somebody die in your hands, there's no, I mean, bodily functions and stuff, the person go on then, you know? So once you leave your body, remember your body, you have no control. You control your body. If you want to move your hand, you move your hand. Your hand don't move for itself. So, but I know, I mean, that one hit my heart and, you know, but I know I did my best now. I did my best. Sometimes life is like that. Maybe sometimes life just happens, right? But what if the case of Parrot and where they could have done something more people, where they could have one safety could have prevent, one person could have prevent that accident, right? One person could have prevent that mess up. Anyway, it's up to you all now. Maybe me too, because I'm still out here kind of way, right? You know, emergency rescue, right? And if those things, look, I remember doing a plan for another company a couple years ago, not too much years ago. They were cleaning out a furnace, and I told them, look, I am not going to allow this work to continue unless an ambulance is on standby, right? And nobody was allowed to even go up in that furnace or even come unless the ambulance came by. That one person could have made a difference. You could make a difference, right? Some of my students listen. That's the good news. Some of my students do listen, but everybody is different. Some of my students, they come back. I had a student who was fired, and if I tell her that one, and he did the right thing. He saved somebody's life. Right, he's still working today, right? That's a story for another day, right? But I mean, some people hold their reins. It's like, what do you want? Do you want somebody dead to be on your conscience? Could you live with that? Maybe some people could, right? All right, let's go again. Emergency rescue, some things. So obviously signatures, right? You're seeing it, signature, signature, signature. But we'll leave that for last. Let's just some of the other big controls, right? So another big control on a permit is PPE, RPE, PPE. Like what PPE is needed for the job, right? What PPE is needed for the job? What respiratory PPE? This is obvious, right? PPE. The marker given a little bit of trouble, right? Should be, oh, I don't know what's coming up there. Could you make it out for me? PPE, right? Or RPE, respiratory protective equipment. I'm marking it on nothing. I don't know if you all see that nothing isn't coming out, right? Okay. So PPE, RPE is a big part of a permit, right? The rest of matter short where the marker given trouble, right? Or make clean the screen and start over, right? Another one is the permit have a time limit. I was telling you that before. The person going into a tank, they're not going to live in a tank. At least hopefully not, right? So the permit, one of the headings, these are the headings on the permit, you know. The heading on the permit is like time limit, like the time a welder is in that tank, they could limit it to 20 minutes. Contractor going in to take out sludge with a wheelbarrow, that's how they do it on a shovel. Maybe, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes in, 5 minutes out, 10 minutes in, 10 minutes out, right? That permit have a time limit then, and they just say 30 minutes, right? Other things on a permit, do you all know any? I mentioned some before, gas testing. You're not supposed to go inside there. You're not supposed to get in your vessel. You're not supposed to do that without testing for various gases. And one of the gas you're testing for, yes, you want to test for hydrogen sulfide if it's an oil tank. But one of the gases you're testing for is good old-fashioned oxygen. Yeah. Anybody know the oxygen level you're supposed to be getting in a tank or a vessel or a vat or a silo or a sewer? What oxygen levels you're supposed to get? Everybody just talk about gas testing and they forget oxygen. Yes, it tests for H2S, right? Like, what's a gas is
So
supposed to
you
test
mean
for?
PSI? You mean how PSI?
But the PSI is pressure, but I mean, but the oxygen percentage, like how much percentage is supposed to get for oxygen? Anybody know?
19.3 to 23.
A little bit lower, but yeah. Okay, you have it close. You have it close. Right now, what you really want, ideally, so nothing is wrong with 19.5. 19.5, they say. But 19.5 is when like you may start to get dizzy. So you really shouldn't go in at 19.5. You really want to get around 21% oxygen. 23% is actually what they call enrichment. Now, enrichment could actually still make you dizzy and faint. Right? Enrichment could actually still make you kind of high. Please write it down if you don't know that. I mean, not that you're doing that, but remember you may be a safety. 19.5 is supposed to be O2 and not CO2. CO2 is CO2 concentration is supposed to be 0.03%. CO2 is what we breathe out, right? CO2 is supposed to be 0.03% or 4, but 0.03 to 0.04. It's a very low percentage. So you're not really going to concern yourself with CO2. What you want to concern yourself with is good old-fashioned oxygen, 21%, right? Some years ago, some students came back to me after a class they had another lecturer teaching. He died, right? He passed away now. But this was before the pandemic and probably, I don't know, 2011, 2012, right? Some students came back and they told me, the teacher said, the higher the oxygen concentration, the better. So if you get 80%, I think that's good. And that's like so wrong because human beings, like that is enrichment for us. We will still have the same effect, right? We still have the same dizzy effect. We still have the same effect, and it's like too much, right? I suppose that's how God may have it on the planet. Human beings, like we are good at 21%. We could breathe 19.5 as somebody had 19.3, but it must start to get a bit lightheaded, right? I could tell you a funny story, but it's for academic purposes. It's not to put out in the public forum. So like a big ammonia company in Trinidad, the biggest ammonia company, had a case where somebody was exposed to ammonia, right? On a vessel and the person passed out. But before the person passed out though, sometimes you just know now, like you just know when you're feeling not too well. And the guy was just able to signal to his workmate that he wasn't feeling well, but he went down. However, the official story from that company, they didn't want it to make it look like the company released ammonia now. You listen to the story? I was listening into the meeting, but they didn't know I was listening. Right? It's a funny story. I'll tell it another time too. But the outcome of it is this. The managers in the company was having a discussion about what to release to the media now about this person that collapsed in the company. And you know what they said it was? They said it was the person was a diabetic, which he was not. They also said that his blood sugar was too high, which it was not, right? And eventually I kind of gotten into the thing, a longer story. And I told them, but that excuse doesn't make sense because high blood sugar doesn't cause you to faint. It's actually low blood sugar. Say that again. High blood sugar doesn't cause you to faint. It's actually low blood sugar, right? So people try to palm it off on that's the biggest gas company could think about in Trinidad for like ammonia that starts with the letter P. And it have a lot of men working there, a lot of men working there, you know. Yeah, some companies do like things out in the public, right? But I just saying sometimes like when you try to create a story, create a good story now. Create a good cover-up. Scientifically, that excuse didn't make any sense, right? Anyway, good old-fashioned oxygen is something we have to test for anyway, right? You'll be careful, Trinidad, the ammonia concentrations are very high. This is not a joke. And I know somebody who had cancer and died in his 40s, right? A man felt a lump in his 40s, went and got it checked out. He was exposed to the ammonia concentration in these plants are too high, right? The international limit is 18 milligram per meter cube, and Trinidad is more than 100. Say that again. The international limit for ammonia is 18 milligram per meter cube. When you test in Trinidad, is more than 100 milligrams per meter cube. Anyway, yeah, the guy, he, after working in these ammonia plants, I won't call this specific one, was diagnosed with cancer. In less than a month, he died, less than a month after that, he died. Right? So not everything is academic, folks, and not everything is, thing, but it's real. I mean, Trinidad is a real place. At least so they say Trinidad is not a real place, but it's a real place where people work anyway, right? Let me see what else I could give you here again. I need to take off something. I have 6 here. But you understand the value of these things, that these things could have saved a life. You test for the ammonia we're talking about. If the ammonia is beyond 18, nobody should be working there. Right? Gas testing, oxygen, hydrogen, sulfur, ammonia. CO2, if you did something with CO2 to maybe pump in CO2 in a vessel, because you do that for purging, then you could probably test the CO2 concentration, right? I think that makes sense. If anybody use CO2 for purging purposes of a vessel, then they probably need to test the CO2 anyway. So I'm not saying noted, because other than that, natural CO2 is about, it's probably low, 0.03%. It's very low, in fact. I'm taking off, could I take off these? Could I take off these? I'll give you about 4 more. Yeah, anybody still on these? So these are the headings and a permit, which is what will keep somebody safe. And not everything I tell you is textbook, not everything is exam. I'm trying to tell you that this document could actually save somebody's life. When it wasn't used around the world, not just in Trinidad, it wasn't used in a case study in Piper Alpha in the UK as well, right? These things have resulted in death then. So not everything is teach and exam. Some things is for life. And I think this piece of paper, this permit to work, is of such importance that it could save somebody's life, and have saved somebody's life, and have not saved somebody's life when it was not used anyway. All right. Another heading on the permit is something called cancellation. Cancellation. So what does that mean? The job have to be cancelled. What does that mean? What I was telling you all is like the risky operation is not going on forever now. The welding is not going on forever. The contractor in a vessel is not living in the vessel, right? He or she there for a reason and there for a purpose. So after the 30 minutes or after the 2 hours of the job, the permit have to be cancelled. One of the main headings is authorization. Like, this is what was missing in the one I was telling you all in IAL, right? The authorized person was not there. If this person's signature not on the permit, you should not do anything. Wait till 10 o'clock in the day if it means. Imagine that. You have a customer waiting till 10 o'clock in the day. It's not my fault the authorized person is not there. I am just the safety, right? The authorized person could be a manager. The manager is stuck in traffic or attending to his family business. That's not my fault. But it's my job to make sure that nobody start work without the authorization signature being there, signature of manager authorizing the job. Would you take that risk? It's up to you. It's not up to me, right? I'm not taking that risk, right? Authorization signature. Let me see what I could give you again to the end here. We have cancellation. Did we have time? Did you have time limits on it already? Yeah. What was your
Yes,
number
you
6?
did.
Okay, time limits. Okay. What again could be here? We have emergency rescue. Well, we could put signatures of all the persons, and maybe we could ask, well, we could end up with a simple thing, we could end up with date and time, right? So signatures of everybody. So there's more than one placer, like the permit that have signature of the supervisor, signature of the operative, signature of the welder, signature of the whole watch. It has certain signatures, right? It have different spaces for the signatures of, and anybody could hold up a permit if you feel something missing from the permit, right? Maybe they didn't do the gas tested, maybe the emergency rescue didn't come, maybe the risk assessment need to be recalculated. Something went wrong. You have the power to hold up the permit and take your power because that power could be saving somebody's life, right? So the end is we could probably end with date and time, maybe the date, time, and location of the activity. Date, time, location. Again, this is probably three, but I put them in one. Date, time, and activity. Oh, I know thought of a good one for Nibosh. I'll have to give it 11 then. Date, time, location, right? But this is 3 and 1. But you know what Nibosh is big on? The big on sharing the permit with adjacent contractors. Big for exam. A lot of case studies will say the permit was done and then they put it in a drawer, or the manager had it, and then the other contractor on site looking for it and cannot find it. And they asked it to comment now on what was wrong. This is supposed to be ADJACENT, right? Adjacent contractors. What that means is supposed to copy the permit. You're supposed to copy it and give it to whoever is on your site, whoever is around your site, because you don't want, as what happened in Paria, a contractor put in a valve that's still connected to the system, created the suction and pulled them in and them in, right? If that contractor had been given a copy of the permit saying, look, the dive is not completed as yet, the people still down there, the permit has not been cancelled. You only cancel the authorized person supposed to cancel the permit and give a copy of that to the other contractor too. They would have known, but they didn't know because nobody gave them a copy of the permit. Folks, you understand how a piece of paper could save your life? A permit is a powerful document. Used correctly could save a life. Ignored, it could put people's life in jeopardy. And as it did in, like I said, around the world, right? Not just in Trinidad and Tobago here, right? This is adjacent contractor. Maybe could probably put a copy. You always see this in the Nibosh case study. Always they say something like there are two contractors. One of them have one copy of it, or the person went to make a copy of it, but they didn't copy it. Just give me a minute to this phone here. Think if you have any questions in the meantime, and you'll get back to. Right. If just by chance, if anybody, I realize a lot of people calling to ask for Firewatch. If anybody want to get, we have a Firewatch being planned for Thursday evening. It's on Zoom. If anybody wants to get it done Thursday evening, I may start 6:30 to about 8 o'clock. And you can get your Firewatch certificate if anybody want to do that. Because the other week, I may do confined space the other week, right? But I get a couple of calls of Firewatch, about four or five people. I was supposed to put it in the group chats and them too, as you know, it's not just one class. To see if we can get some people for it anyway, right? All right, I think this is finished here. Permit to work. I think I did it well enough, I was saying. Do you have any questions in it? Do you all understand the importance of this particular form? And how this is meant to control high-risk activities? In fact, by following one thing in it, you could probably save somebody's life, isolation, risk assessment. You could probably save somebody's life with this form in itself. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me try to. No, that was the end of it there, right? That was the end of it. So what I was saying, I think I gave you the PowerPoints for the rest of the chapters. The only thing was that I didn't open that PowerPoint. So I want to open it because I want to open the next PowerPoint because we could finish. Right? It's half an hour again we have. And the other thing is very easy. It may take me just about half an hour. Right? So I think that would have been session 9, right? Session 9, all of this is still chapter 3. So if you have your book, you just have to turn the page and you see it continuing from there anyway. Let me know when you see in the PowerPoint in the background. It should be saying session 9 and 10. If you all are seeing it, just let me know. 9 and 10, yeah?
So
Okay, good.
certain.
Okay. Okay, good. All right. So if you have your book, just try to line this up with the textbook, those of us who have the book. So we just finished the permit to work. So if you turn out a permit, you'll see the same heading. Well, this heading here. Just if you turn your pages out of permit, you'll see page 66 is permit, page 67 is permit. But if you turn the page, you'll see the same heading. You'll see emergency procedures and first aid. Well, first aid coming up. Look, first aid down here. First aid is here, right? So I think what I'll do, I use the technique of explaining, right? So I wouldn't read too much, that doesn't give you the explanation anyway. So what we can say here is that there's a law in the UK for a company having emergency procedures, which is obvious, right? So every company should establish emergency procedures. Like, what is your emergency then? Is it fire, flood, terrorist attack? Well, again, it's common, the pandemic. Like, what's the procedure, right? So you come up with your company procedure, you make sure that everybody who is a part of the plan is, informed of the risk in the company. And then if anyone has a role to play, like a first aider or a fire marshal, you make sure that they receive training, right? It doesn't make sense to come up with a plan and they say, Frank, you are the fire marshal, but Frank doesn't know how to use a fire extinguisher, right? So part of the plan is that you must make contact with external services such as the hospital. You must have their numbers. You see it in a lot of companies. For Trinidad, you have the police number, the ODPM number, the environmental management number. So all of those things are important because there are some emergencies that you cannot handle within your own company then, right? So external contacts are necessary in case situations presenting serious and imminent dangers that cannot be fully controlled in-house, right? Emergency planning, I'll read this one. This is just reading. Let me just try to catch my breath first, right? If an emergency is foreseeable, then it is foreseeable that you can do something about it as well as minimize the consequences should it occur. An emergency plan should be produced so that an organization is best prepared so far as is reasonably practicable should one occur. The plan should address emergency response during every phase of the emergency. The main stages associated or the phases is assessment. So like assessment is like what emergency does your company face? Then you have prevention. How do you prevent it? If you could. If you can't prevent it, how best are we going to prepare for it? What is our response? What is our recovery? The degree of planning should be proportional to the probability of a major accident hazard occurring. You would need you need plans for part of the site, the danger areas, and then one for the overall areas as well. Components, right, of an emergency plan: when and how to call emergency services, who will take charge and what would they be responsible for, procedures for response during special circumstance. A special circumstance is like a holiday, right? Availability of resources, including the requirement of any specialist equipment, where and how to get information, how emergency responders would be identified and how each could identify each other, where emergency responders will rendezvous and how would they communicate. All of that is part of your plan. Training for the planners, training for people with role to play. You do a drill so that you test the parts of the plan, right? In considering emergency plans, you need to consider people who may have disabilities, right? They refer to that as a personal emergency evacuation plan. you cater the plan then to the person disability. Somebody that's on a wheelchair may need to be at ground level. Somebody with vision defect may need to probably have somebody help them out of the building, right? So when you cater the plan for somebody, it's called a PEEP, right? In terms of fire, if it was fire you're dealing with, all signs must be clear. The word conspicuous means clear. It must be placed next to any fire activating points. Should state the fire action to take on hearing the alarm. Should encourage persons not to tackle the fire unless they are trained in the uses and limitations of fire extinguishers. In the event of a fire, this is just one simple one. Raise the alarm by operating the nearest break glass system. Call for assistance will alert the emergency control center or telephone exchange. When using the telephone to make an emergency call, you must give the following information: your name, your telephone number, brief details of the incident, the exact location of the incident. If possible, attack the fire with the nearest extinguisher of the correct type. Do not take personal risk. Again, it is your responsibility to find out where the extinguishers are located, right? Different types of emergencies companies could face: gas explosion, electrical burns or electrocution, escape of a toxic gas or fumes, terrorist threat, spread of a highly infectious disease, severe weather, aircraft crash if near buildings. Dealing with the media, only designated persons should deal with the media during an emergency. Persons should be trained to handle external relations. Information should only be released when it's clear what's happened and what's going to happen. Treat the media with the respect that they deserve. And that's it for emergency plan. I tell you, it's very simple, right? First aid. So there's a law for first aid called the First Aid Regulations 1981. It requires the company to have a first aider, have adequately trained personnel, have first aid equipment, and they need to give the information on who is the first aider to the rest of the employees, right? The function of first aid: to preserve life. They call it the 3 Ps: prevent further injury, promote recovery, right? What equipment is needed in a first aid container? Actually, the UK law didn't really specify what to put in it. But what they said is that you would put what is in your first aid kit based on your risk assessment, right? So based on your risk that you know what to put in your kit. It should be fully stocked though, right? So a suitably stocked first aid container is required, right? The first aid room must be appropriately signed. They must have signed it saying first aid, right? If you want, I can explain. I'm going to explain 2 slides here for you, well, 3, because it's something from England. And like we don't talk like this in the region, right? So in the law, the first aid regulation, the first aider is called a suitable person, right? So in the law, the first aid regulation in England, the first aider is called a suitable person. So the law is saying you must have an adequate number of first aiders to administer first aid. And a first aider is somebody who would have received training, acquired the HSC approved first aid qualification, received the appropriate additional training in relation to any hazards, likely to be exposed to. The first aider must be proportional to the number of workers. There's an average here of about at least 1 first aider for every 50 employees. And you must have adequate first aiders to control the special circumstances. And like if somebody is ill, like the first aider themselves is ill, well, who will fill in? And what if the first aider is on holidays, right? That is also there as well, right? An appointed person. In the UK, the law again has made it a requirement to have a second first aider, a junior first aider. That junior first aider is called an appointed person, right? So as a minimum, the junior first aider must be able to call for help, administer first aid, responsible for the equipment, be able to use the equipment, but they may not be as trained as a full-fledged first aider, right? An employer must inform his employees about first aid arrangements, including the location of equipment, facilities for first aid, identification of the trained first aider. It's a common practice to put it like on the policy book or the notice board, right? Some companies have it copied and it's kind of laminated and it's put on the notice board to every department everywhere, right? First aid rooms, as I mentioned, must be appropriately signed. If you have, like because of the pandemic, if it had like dust masks, must be worn, coveralls must be worn, right? No smoking. All of these are just different types of signs, right? So like prohibition sign, you want no smoking around the first aid room, no unauthorized person, but you want them to wear a mask, you want them to wear a coverall, you warn everybody as of coming by, and anyway, out of the building, out of the room, they don't have like exits and stuff, right? Exit signs are normally green and white, warning signs, yellow and black, mandatory blue and white, prohibition signs, red, white, and black, right? If you look at the sign itself, but they don't test these things anymore. That doesn't mean it wouldn't come. Before the pandemic. They used to ask students to draw and label these signs, but it's an open book test now. So the main thing here is that the room must be adequately signed, no smoking, wear your coverall, wear your mask if you're getting into it, because you don't know what the person, remember, it's not just injuries, it could be a disease, right? The other signs you could use other than those signs, you have like, these are construction signs, so you could probably ignore these a bit if you want. These are, the other courses now, you have something called banking and rigging. These are some signs from that course, like the finger pointing down, this actually means boom down. Like if a crane was up in the air and you want the crane to come down, you do that symbol, and that is boom down. Any signal you have maybe to warn of danger should be above the noise on your company. It shouldn't be painful or excessive. The sound for an emergency should be recognizable. Fire alarm should be clearly audible, distinguishable from other acoustic signals, easily heard everywhere on site. And that's the end of chapter 3, right? I realize I still have time, right? If you have the book, right? Could I just show you something in the book? Page 73. Page 73 of your textbook, right? If you look at the top of it, they have the same thing here. Factors to consider, right? When deciding first aid provision in the workplace. So this was a past paper question. Like they asked, what do you consider in deciding on if the first aid arrangements you have, if it is sufficient? And the book had all the answers, right? So how would you know if the first aid is sufficient? You have to consider the risk level, right? If you don't have your book, you could probably write them down. I'll call them like 2 times for each one. I wouldn't write it because it kind of take up too much of time, right? So what are the things to consider in deciding on, like, do I need 1 first aider or 2 first aiders or 3? What determines that? So one of the answers is the general risk level, the risk level, right? And next answer, if you have the book, there's no need to write it. I just reading it from the book, right? Another answer is the hazard present in the workplace. The hazard present in the workplace. Another answer is, what is your accident history? If you always have had, like a chemical spill, then you probably need the first aiders trained in that, and then you need them to sort of be able to get into place if there is a chemical spill, right? What is your company history then, and what has been affecting your company? Another one is the presence of vulnerable persons. Do you have elderly persons? Do you have young people? Do you have somebody in a wheelchair? Would they need extra help, right? Another answer, the number of workers in the workplace. So the more workers you have, the guidance said at least 1 first aider for every 50 employee. So the number of workers in the workplace, page 73, again, page 73, right? I'll call them over when I finish. Another one, what about shift systems? If you have a shift, do you have enough first aiders to cover the shift? Right? What about maybe non-employees visiting your compound? Do you have school children, the book is saying? Do you have school children coming in? If so, how much? Could one first aider deal with somebody if they fall, if these kids fall, right? Could one first aider deal with that, right? Another answer, the geographic location of the workplace. Now that's a good answer. The geographic location of the workplace. Let me explain that one to you. So the geographic location is like if you were living close to the hospital then you don't need much first aid. You can just go to the hospital, right? Guyana, Trinidad, same thing anyway. Right? Those of us who live very far, if you live at, I mean, but there are health centers, right? There's a health center in Siparia now, Siparia, as they say, or Siparia, right? What about folks from down Cedras, Point Fortin, closest hospital maybe Point Fortin. But if you live close, if you're in Point then, if you live in Point Fortin, or you live in San Fernando, or you live in Port of Spain, right? Then if something was to happen, then you can just go to the hospital. And the same for the company. If your company was in San Fernando, you don't need much first aid, or do you? Or do you? Traffic in the city is horrible. The person I told you about that passed away was in San Fernando. And I did CPR until the ambulance came. I did CPR even when I know the person had passed away, right? As I tell you, I did my best. But the thing is, it wasn't San Fernando, like not like when I mean San Fernando, like Broadway San Fernando people. The ambulance still took half an hour to come, right? But anyway, that's the only point. Again, back to the theory. I mean, so the logic is if you live or you work close to a hospital, then you don't really need much first aiders. But if your company then was in Mayaro, Losiro, right? If I have any guy and he's here, maybe Linden or Burbees or whatever have you, right? It may take a very long time to get to a hospital. So then the first aider becomes the person to sort of try to save your life then, right? Distribution of the workforce, the number of buildings on a site, number of floors, the physical size and spread of the workplace, the need to cover holidays and absence, peripatetic employees, those who travel from place to place. If you are traveling, then if your job entails that you go to Mayaro, then Mayaro, which it did for Massey. Massey does have you sometimes, and not just them, but even a sale company. So Mayaro, San Fernando, Point Fortin, that's 1 day run. But what happens on your run? I know workers who still make that run. That's one of the things that caused me to quit Massey, I find that run was too long and hard, right? Leaving San Fernando to get to, Mayaro, pass, Guaya, something was a bit time consuming. You're spending like 4 hours of the day in driving, 4, 5, 6 hours of the day in driving alone, right? But people do put up with these things. Like I said, if you're in Guyana, from Georgetown to Boobies and stuff, some of these runs are normal runs for delivery vehicles, but are those persons covered with first aid provision as well, right? Folks, we'll stop here. It's actually totally finished. This year I actually came back and I tied in a past paper here, right? So it's totally finished. We could officially say chapter 3 is done. And I was going to finish next week. Right? But I tell you, it's not long. As I keep telling you all some of these slides and I'm not very long. And even next week too. What I'll do next week though, next week we start in chapter 4. It will have 4 more lessons and 2 will make up 1 day. I may teach and then when we stop and we probably just do a past paper. Like we'll do a full past paper. When I say full, like I wouldn't just talk about it and we'll actually open my past paper, read the case study, read the question. That's the only way to make it last 4 weeks again. Right? That's the only way to make it last 4 weeks again. But in the meantime, folks, you all work on your project. That's what you can do for me or do for yourself. Work on your project, to kind of get that kind of under wraps anyway, right? Let's call it roll and that'll be it for today. I had a long day, but I'm accustomed to it. It's just I don't know how long again I'll be accustomed to it. That's the thing anyway, right? All right. Megan, George.
Present.
All right, thanks very much. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Mark, Luca, yeah, thanks. I know Mark is here. Yeah, Mark is here. Okay. Michael, Gayadine. You know what I want you all to do? I know some of us left already. In the week, I'll have to contact you all. I want to kind of get a definitive answer. In the week, I'll have to contact you all. If it's via the group or personally calling you all to see when you all want that exam, right? If it's me, you'll go for because we have to apply for it now. You gotta apply for it and organize for the payment and stuff to be done. I would suggest what did you all say? I can't remember. I mean, the majority of you all still here. Like, what was the overall consensus of the class? I really can't remember. What was the overall consensus of the class? Was it me? Me.
I prefer
Samari?
April too.
I wouldn't
April.
mind it.
Okay, I think,
Me,
okay,
I'll
so I think,
prefer me too.
I would
yeah,
say me.
all right, I think I'm going to call you all one by one. Nothing is wrong with that. Those who want to write April could write April. Those who want to write me could write me, right? But I think I'll call you all in the week, and I'll kind of record it and see how once we get this set for April, then we'll let you all, come in and do your payment. The May people won't have to do nothing as yet. The May people will have to wait until April month anyway, right? Nothing is wrong with that. Thank God for that. And NEBOSH exam is on every month. Before the pandemic, it was 4 times a year. If you miss, you had to wait. But now it's every month to have exam, right? Rishi Singh, Kenwin Payne. I thought Kenwin and them was here. I am. These are some guys I know now. Let me check the chats and see. I guess not. Okay, I keep all in the roll then, right? I'm gonna keep you all waiting. Aaron Caesar.
Present.
Okay, Joshua Ram. Afras.
Yeah, present.
Yeah, seen Afras, right? Samara is here. Javan is here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Stephen Charan. Shannon Mason.
Present, sir.
Thanks very much. Evangeline is here. Whitney George.
Esther.
Yep. Hi, Whitney George. Akili Wilson.
Here.
Okay, thanks, Akili. Jessica Johnson.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jessica. Shamila Rajas. Sean Hanif. Osmond Philip. No, I know Osmond is, I know one of them here because I know Osmond and Kenwin. Yeah, Osmond Philip is here. I know I saw him coming in, right? Danishwari and Ria Samuel.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks. And of course, Danishwari is there. Anybody on the
Yes.
line did not hear your name? I have you all. I have Javan, I have Ria, I have those who are seen, I have Danishwari, I have Samaria, right? Folks,
Oh,
enjoy
so
the
I had
rest of
two
your Saturday.
questions I wanted to
Sure.
ask you.
Go ahead,
Sorry.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. One, do you had enough people already for the diploma, or do you still
No, we
have
have
room?
space. I have 5 seats available.
Okay, well, I'm interested in doing that. So I don't know what I have to do. Send an email or something, or
You just had to give me your name. You could just message me that back in the phone if you want. Just message me back your full name and you're interested in the class.
Okay,
And
so
I'll put
full
you on
name
the
and
list.
interest.
Yeah,
And you'll be
just
able
message.
to, you'll just forward like the payment, the costs and all those things.
Yeah, I mean, the semesters is just like this. It's like 3 semesters like this. You could pick your payment plan if you want. You could keep paying the same amount you're paying. Everybody just kind of pick their own payment plan. So actually right now I only have 3 more space. If you take this space, I only have 3 more seats available on this diploma right now. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And when does it start?
We would have orientation in April, like the end of
Mm.
April. The classes will start in May, right? The thing is though, the present batch have exam in May. So the next semester is a combined semester, right? Well, all semesters are combined semesters, right? But we do take
Okay.
our own students. We don't turn away our own students, as you all know. We said that before. So yes, you're getting into the May cycle, and then they have one exam around September, October. It's a nice subject this time. The subject starting in May is like a subject called work equipment. The first set of classes is like on fire safety and stuff. It's not a difficult subject, but they have 3 subjects to do at the degree level, and each semester is 6 months long, right?
6 months.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
You'll
And the
message me
last
back
thing
when
is
you finish? No, yeah.
pardon?
So you'll message the phone when you finish, because the phone right now, if I show you the phone, it have 100 different messages on it. So you just
All
message
right.
me
Yeah,
back.
I'll message it
Yeah,
now. And
yeah.
just one thing, I was looking through the PowerPoints, but I didn't see week 11.
Now there's no week 11. Well, I mean, there's week 11, but week 11 was meant for a mock exam.
Oh,
So
okay.
you would have a mock exam, but we do it like after we finish now, right? The reason for doing it in week 11, back in the day before the pandemic, remember, people had to study. So like we did
Right.
it in the middle there, not the middle, but like 3/4 way in. So like those who would have failed the mock exam could have had a chance to study now. But remember, you don't have to study anything now. So we don't do it in week 11 anymore. So there's no week 11. From 9 and
Okay.
10, it goes straight to 12. Yeah, yeah,
12. Okay, thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. All right, yeah.
Mr. Shadrach,
So yeah, hi.
I emailed you my project, but I didn't get a feedback from you.
Probably will look at it when I get some time.
Yeah, because
Right? Find me
I
on
need help
Monday,
with
please.
that.
I could probably just message your phone and remind me on Monday. Right?
Okay, no problem. Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else? We have Aaron and we have Danishwari.
Did you get me for the roll call, sir? I got cut off for a few seconds.
Aaron Caesar.
No,
Aaron.
Osman.
No, well, Osman, I put you because I see your name on the list.
All
Remember,
right,
you
okay.
and Kedwin, I know all of from before, so I just look for it every Saturday now. Yeah.
All right, okay.
Okay.
Nice, thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Right.
All right, folks. That's it, Danishwari. You're good?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, bye.